Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on January the 18th of 2018. I am Nick. This is Chris, and this is going to be a weird week of manga, but
Why is it going to be weird,
yeah,
Nick?
no reason. I'm sure it will be perfectly normal, and that if we were to put up images, we wouldn't be visited by people wanting to know what the fuck was wrong with us and bring us in for questioning.
Now, when you say images, what are you referring to?
Nothing. I'm sure that everything will be perfectly normal as we go through the chapters this week. Everything will be normal.
Everything copacetic, no weird images or anything like that?
Nothing weird.
Okay.
Nothing. Okay.
Gotcha. Oh, hey, before we start the show, we don't normally do things like this, but I want to give a special thank you to a friend of ours. I want to give a thank you to Brennan, who Glock3BB. Some of you might know him. He's a good friend of my show. He sent me something for my birthday. It's something that I didn't ask him to, just out of the goodness of his Christian heart. He decided to send me something. And it is if you can't see it right here, this is an Osamu, I don't know if you call them action figure. Some of those,
But a figure.
yeah, plastic figure of everybody's favorite best boy, Osamu. You can see him
He's
right
got a
there.
little try-on cube and a
Yeah,
Regus.
he's got his little Regus. So now, thanks to this, Brennan, I can finally live out all the fantasies that I've been always wanting to do. Like, oh, look, it's Osamu meeting Nami. And the two of them just mwah, 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 mwah. Oh, God, head fell off, Nick! Luckily, it didn't land in
This
my
is what
teeth.
happens when we don't pre-tape our skits. Magic is what happens.
It's just, it pops right back on, I'm sure. Fucking Nami and your giant breasts make it hard to put your head back on. There we go. See? And then they can go right back to just making out as they normally were. It's perfect.
Nobody sent Chris a Ghidorah head, or else you know exactly what's going to happen.
Oh, this is one step closer.
One step closer.
One step closer to a real life, a world trigger to my heart and back door.
Okay. Also, nobody sent him socks and only socks. Like figurine-sized socks.
I actively need socks at this point, so if you want to send those along.
Cool. If you want to send him normal socks, it's fine, but
Yeah.
don't send him figurine socks for...
Or, if you send me a Ghidorah figurine, whatever, send along a similarly sized New York Giants jersey. Preferably from, like, the 2008 season when they were really good, and not the current season. How the fuck he doesn't stand on his stupid stand? All right, Osamu, you don't get to stand. Thanks, Brennan. You got me a fucking piece of broken junk, you shithead. No, thank you, Brennan. So there we go. All right, let's start.
It's like doing like a hard cut from his like, oh, I think he did have the good of his Christian art. 2 minutes later, you piece of shit.
It doesn't immediately fit onto the base. How am I supposed to stand it up? It's all junk now. Worthless junk.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I still have something I want to talk a little bit about before we move in.
Is it also about the 50 polls you put up?
50 polls I've been putting up on Twitter. I've been doing like 3 a day. And if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. I'm directing that specifically to you, nobody else.
Me? Okay. I mean, I made it as a joke.
Qualifier. But had this thought in my head that was something that I've been thinking about for a while. And as part of the thought process that I was going through, I was like, I wonder what people think of a certain set of movies from a very specific time period. So I put up a couple of polls on Twitter, like, what do you think of this animated film from like 99, 2000, 2001? And I did that for a couple of them that I was specifically curious about. And I got some interesting responses from people. So I kept on doing it, and I'm just still doing it now. A couple of them have been interesting because of the results that I've gotten, where it's like, oh, more people liked, for example, more people liked, The Road to El Dorado or The Emperor's New Groove or whatever, from that time period than I thought that they might, because people are entitled to their own opinions and stuff. What's been interesting is the way that some people have been reacting to the polls. So, like, how could people not like Treasure Planet? It's like, very easily.
I'm like, look, is there an option for I've never seen this movie because it looked boring? Because that's what
because Twitter will only let me put up 4 options on the poll.
Because I'm saying that's what I would answer to Treasure Planet, certainly. Like, Treasure Planet just always looked boring.
It is boring.
Tangent, quick one. But my friend Frank, I went to his place for a New Year's Eve, and I was like looking at his game collection. I was like, Treasure Planet, why do you have that? And I remember he like was like, shh, no, my uncle and aunt bought that for me, and they're standing right there. I was like, I guarantee they don't even remember that they bought you this game. Probably. They probably were just like, this has a cartoon on it. I'm sure Nerdy Frank loves his cartoons. Let's buy him Treasure Planet. I'm sure they weren't like, do you think he loved Treasure Planet? Do you think he loved PS2's Treasure Planet?
PlayStation 2's Treasure Planet.
I don't even know if it was PlayStation 2. I feel like it was, but it could have been an earlier PS1.
PlayStation 2, that would have been right around the right time, because that was like 2003. Yeah?
Yeah.
God. There's some movies that you hear that's like get a video game tie and it's like, why? How?
Chicken Little, I remember almost exclusively from its video game tie-ins, or Meet the Robinsons, where you're like, this was a movie? And you're like, yeah, I guess it was.
Oh man,
I feel like I took you off your original tangent though.
No, that's fine. Like the weird memories that I love it is because of, you know, a lot of the people who listen to our show are, you know, right around our age. So there's that nostalgic feeling associated with movies that really don't deserve to have nostalgic feelings surrounding them.
Except for Mortal Kombat, which I believe we've all again agreed is just a solid movie through and through.
Guys, I'm sorry that you like Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. It's not good. We did the same thing a few years ago with Space Jam. Do you remember when people made a bajillion remixes of that theme song? That's not a good movie. I love it, but it's a terrible movie.
I recall, like, even as a kid being like, that wasn't a good movie. Like, as a kid, you were like, that was kind of garbage. It got carried pretty heavily by the fact you had cartoon characters interacting with Michael Jordan, and Bill Murray showed up at the end of it. So that was pretty cool. But, like, even as a kid, I was like, it's kind of a dumb movie.
I think that if we go through every movie from our childhood, though, we're going to forget to talk about the manga.
That's true. We'll also have to start up a separate podcast for that.
Hey, not a bad idea.
Movie nostalgia. No one's probably doing that yet, right?
No, nobody. No one.
Cool.
All right. We're going to just jump into the recap portion of Weekly Manga Recap. We also have a jump start this week, which we'll talk a little bit about. But to begin with, we're going to kick off, as we normally do, with My Hero Academia. Number 166, Proud of the Licensed Trainees. And I like this little cover page that we've got with Todoroki with his parents. It's like the most normal picture of them that you're ever going to see.
You do have to still remember, he did basically abuse his wife to get to this point. So it's weird seeing, like, not a happy picture. Before the
feelings came out. Or maybe it's from an alternate universe where none of that happened.
That's what I'm assuming. I assume that's the situation we're on right now.
Look at Todoroki with his stupid little kindergarten uniform.
Man, I'd hate to have been a kid in Japan just for that reason alone. Like the little
uniforms with the short shorts and stuff.
Yeah, the little dorky hats.
Also, yeah, we get to see what Endeavor looks like without his flame power turned on. So, last time, the trainees for the Hero License exam didn't really know what to do with the kids that they're supposed to take care of. Bakugo's idea of hanging up the leader and having the rest chuck rocks at him, while amazing and sure to work, was rejected by the others. And Todoroki just tried to give his character buyout. That didn't work. And Wind Guy tried to be friends with them. And they were like, you're an asshole, basically. And then eventually the kids got tired of waiting around, and now they're going to try and attack our license exam trainees. With stupid hair kid tried to like strike this kingpin pose.
Let's call him who he is, Nick. My hero Nick, as they're calling him now.
Yeah, I no matter how many times I explain to you, like, I cannot convince you that I wasn't like this as a child. No, I grew cynical, Chris, as most people do.
In my head canon, you were always this cynical. Like, you immediately came out of the vagina, you're like, wah, come on, wah, can we go home already? Wah, I'm tired, wah.
Bleach sucks, wah.
I don't care what anyone says, Bleach has always sucked now, wah.
What's Bleach? Well, you mean like the chemicals? Like, no, a manga series that won't be made for another 12 years. Wah!
Mom, enough with the talking. Get me home. Wah! I want some Pop-Tarts. Grind them into formula. Where?
I'm talking like the dog in We Never Learned talks. Perfectly legible, but just have to induct it a little bit. Okay, so Meatball Guy from Shiketsu suddenly barges into commentary to provide some insight. Basically because he needs to be the heel announcer because President Mike is biased towards the UA students. So he points out that, hey, if these guys start to fight, then it's going to be a problem because the licensee exam students can't just crush them because that's not going to do anything in order to actually help them in the long run. And they can't hold back and let the kids win because that's not going to help either. So the moment that they actually got into the situation, then it seems as though the battle was actually decided. This is something that they cannot win. The teacher, meanwhile, is freaking out because the kids actually have really scary, powerful quirks, as demonstrated by this one kid who has summoned a bunch of balls with mouths, basically the
chain chomps,
Langoliers.
Oh,
Almost.
I was thinking the chain chomps from Super Mario.
Kind of a hybrid, maybe, because definitely more chain chomp shaped. You're right. Yeah. He calls them his binging ball, which I think that's a pretty good name. Good job, kid. Yeah. I'm surprised that you know what binging means, considering how young you are.
I would have called them chain chomps and then gotten sued. And then I would have said...
Nintendo comes in and is like, you can't name this something. I'm 8!
And I'm like, well, you're going to be bankrupt at 8, kid, I guess. I'm like, I'll kill you with my main schmomps then. They're like, all right, good job. Avoid the copyright.
It's now parody.
I put little stupid hats on them to like fully make a parody.
You put like the kindergarten hat on them. But one of them whizzes by Bakugo's ear and rips apart his mask. So a little scary there. Little ball with a mouth coming speeding towards your head. Yeah. And a bunch of the other students start to use their quirks as well. Including the kid who had the cannon in his mouth before, whose quirk is called Tongue Tank. So his tongue, presumably, is actually the cannon, which I don't know how he can actually pronounce that if his tongue is a cannon.
He, by the way, is not as creative as a kid as Binging Ball. He went as straightforward as a young kid like that would.
Probably, yes. President Mike is actually kind of freaked out because he's like, hey, when I was this young, I wasn't nearly this developed in using my quirks, so what's with this? And the Shiketsu student says that he's heard that actually with each new generation, quirks blend and evolve, and there will come a day when these complex, overpowered quirks can no longer be controlled by an individual. They call it the Quirk Singularity Doomsday Theory. Now, this... I find it interesting for a couple of reasons. For one thing, it's a pretty logical extension of the whole thing where, hey, quirks, have becoming more and more commonplace with each progressive generation. As if, the quirks and the evolution of humanity are, just accelerating exponentially, basically. The other is that it could actually provide a little bit of context as to why Ares got such a powerful quirk, with the ability to, erase people from existence by reminding them. Some of the students that Orca is doing, training with are pointing out, hey, it looks like things are kind of, bad over there. Is there a problem? And Gang Orca, first off, intimidates them because that's what he do. And then he says that he's not worried, even if they are worthless scum. And as if to prove him right, the Bakugo and Todoroki and the rest have just deflected all the attacks that come at them.
So that was a moment where I was like, okay, so maybe Gang Orca isn't actually supposed to be manifest off of a whale, but rather he's supposed to be manifest off of a tsundere shark. Because that was a moment where he just looks at the characters and he's just like, I'm not worried about the hero candidates, even if they are worthless scum, which we all know is just his pet way of referring to them. So Gang Orca is now...
You are fish poop.
Yeah, even if you are fish poop. Oh. I just love that moment where we saw a different side of Gang Orca like that. Feel free to carry on, Nick. I just drew a very cute image of Gang Orca as a little tsundere.
Tsundere.
Yeah.
So the jerk student with the stupid hair instructs the others to just keep on pouring it on because they're still looking down on them. One of the girls that was jealous of Camille earlier shoots a laser beam, seemingly at Todoroki, and Todoroki suddenly goes full shoujo, surrounded by roses, and goes, "Oh, don't let me see a grimace on that pretty face of yours." And she's like, "Ah!" And suddenly the image fades away, and Camille actually summoned an illusion of Todoroki using her quirk, Glamour. So this is actually, it's like, oh, okay. Because, yeah, Camille's got this ability to presumably cast illusions even on herself. So maybe that's why people didn't realize that Toga was disguised as her. Like, huh. What do you think?
I don't know if it's necessarily supposed to be that. I think we were just meant to get that no one saw Cammy casting stuff. So nobody had a reason to do it because Toga kept hiding herself.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like a cool way. Because I guess in my mind, I just assumed like, oh, maybe Cammy just also has a shape-shifting quirk. And that's why Toga was able to kind of get away with that. But it was kind of a cool way to be like, no, Cammy has actually a very different quirk. Mm-hmm. I don't know why it's weird to me when she has her line there about just like, you know, they don't let us date each other at my school. So, man, I'm going through a bit of a dry spell. And I don't know why the term dry spell just sounds so weird and creepy coming from somebody, especially someone so young. Like, I think dry spell, I think like...
So young, but dressed like that.
Yeah. Where you're just like,
Why are you talking to kindergartners about this?
Yeah, stop talking to children about your dry spells. Ew.
Well, they were pitching my ass earlier. I thought that they knew all about it.
Stop it. No, they don't. They're children.
There is a really weird internal monologue moment from Jerky Hair Kid, where he is like, "Oh, what are these guys planning on doing? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm putting these big kids to shame. I bet I can even play the piano better than any adult out there." Okay.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess that's how the kid sees it. He's like, they're all trying to take my piano skills away. Begrudging my expert piano.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense of entitlement there. Presumably, he was brought up in an environment where he, you know, excelled and was brilliant and told about how great he was. And that's why he looks down on everybody. And yeah, he has this, you know, aside to himself where he's like, I'm better than the adults and the other heroes and the police and my stupid teacher. I'm better than all of them. And I'm going to show them all how good I am. But at that moment, the trainees make their move. So Wind Guy sweeps all the kids up off of their feet into the air. And then Todoroki summons this huge icy slide that a bunch of them start to slide down on. And it's actually a really pretty visual, honestly. Especially the way that he and the other are casting everything together. There's all this kind of, it's like they're kind of like painting this thing in midair.
I think we're also meant to get the idea that the like northern lights hanging in the sky is probably Cammy's doing. Yeah,
because she's moving in the previous panel too. That's a good point. Because right before that she goes, the interior is a little bit plain. So I think that you're right. And Bakugo is doing nothing.
That, or this is a very roundabout way to say that My Hero has also gotten in the steamed hams meme, which is terrible, by the way. That joke is perfect. Every meme on it is only taken away from the joke. I hate it.
Oh, is Aurora Borealis right here in your kitchen.
Oh, right here at this time of the day, located entirely within the confines of your kitchen. Yes.
Yes.
Can I see it? No.
It's a great joke. Anyway, and I will give some credit to that meme. It's the reason why I got to see that scene in the first place, because there's a lot of old Simpsons I still haven't seen. So everyone is blown away by this thing that the three of them have created, including the teachers and the testers and everyone. What's up, Chris?
I just remember the finale of it, which is just like, Scanner, the house is on fire. No, mother,
it's just the Northern Lights.
Such a great line.
And Todoroki actually explains that he's not capable of making complicated structures like this entirely on his own. And he used the things that the kids were launching at them as a foundation for it. He froze around them in order to create this. So a bunch of the kids are immediately taken in by this because they're like, I want to slide on the slide. And he's like, okay, get in line. And we get a flashback from Bakugo's perspective, where he basically kind of put forward what they had to do. So this was actually seemingly his idea, because he pointed out, if we just beat them down by people they think are looking down at them, that's only going to rile them up. And so everyone got into agreement on that and did this, and the Shiketsu student's like, oh, well, they actually sidestepped the confrontation in order to do this. So, yeah, good job. And then Bakugo goes over to Stupid Hair Kid and grabs him, and he's like, get over here for have fun! And I love the way that this is worded when he responds to Bakugo. He says, unhand me at once, you ruffian! But Bakugo says, if you keep looking down on everyone, you're never going to notice your own weaknesses. That's advice from a guy who's been there, so remember it. Bakugo has evolved and learned. Isn't this nice?
Is this good character development?
Character development! It's a really cool little moment. And it was actually really surprising and cool to see. It's like, Bakugo barely used his quirks at all in this. It was just, he was the planner, really. So, good stuff. This all ends up getting wrapped around, after the suggestion that they use their powers to make an explosion-powered roller coaster, to which Todoroki says, that sounds impossible. It's like, you'll never know until you try.
We'll just use these kids as guinea pigs.
This all gets wrapped around to the conversation that Toshinori and Endeavor were having about the symbol of peace. And Toshinori says, what purpose does our strength serve? Endeavor, the answer is a simple one. And Endeavor is looking at his son, playing with the kids, and holding up a little bit of flame in his hand. Which is a cool little visual to end on, because you can read it. It's got like a lot of different kind of layers of meaning. You know, it's, of course, there's the connection between Todoroki and himself, but also it reminds me of the embers of One for All, back during the fight with All for One.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I like this chapter, and honestly what this entire little arc has been. I like that this actually ended here. It didn't, keep on going for a while. Because it's a very quick way of showing, like, oh, these kids tried something, they didn't get it right, but they did actually get what the important lesson here was, which was, again, they didn't fail the previous exam because their powers weren't strong enough. They failed it because they lost sight of what it meant to be a hero. And this is very clearly a way of them showing that they've learned from that and have found a way to strive and go above it. And I like that. I like that Bakugo had this very, tender moment of reflection of him being like, if you keep looking down, you're never going to notice your own weakness, and this is coming from somebody who's been there. And I like how it ends on this quiet moment for Endeavor. Horikoshi has such an incredible way of drawing eyes where you can read a lot of emotion in them so easily, and it's just interesting looking at Endeavor stare there and kind of contemplating what he might be thinking as he's going through this moment, as he's watching a similar answer of what it means to be a hero be portrayed in front of them. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, good stuff.
And we got Tsundere Gang Orca, which I think we all greatly appreciate. I spent a lot of time making that image, goddammit, Nick. I want people to appreciate it.
All right. Then let's move on to Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma. So this is chapter 246, The Queen of Cute. All right, we get it. She's famous for making cute things. We get it.
I had a question to this. So I am not a 16-year-old girl, nor have I ever been one, and presumably I'm not going to become one in the future. So I'm going to be very alien to this experience. But if I recall, the previous chapter, Momo's creation, what everybody's getting really excited about, was like a princess fairy house cake, essentially, like this big fairy tale style castle sort of thing made out of a big like sweet roll cake, essentially. And all these girls who look like they're like young adults to adults are getting really excited. I'm like, is that still really appealing to you? Like a Barbie's dream house made out of cake when you're like 17 years old? I feel like you would have reached a different level of appreciation.
I think it's a different level of cute, you know. Like, people still like kitty cats, Chris.
Well, that's because they're eternally cute. They're always adorable.
So people can have like a love for things that are cute and not have them always be the same thing. You know, your appreciation for cuteness can evolve over time. Also, it's a food school, so yes.
That is true. I guess I should acknowledge the fact that this is the one good school, like the food school that rules all of the world, essentially. So I guess it would make sense that what's ever popular there would be popular everywhere. So I suppose it makes sense.
People in the chat are also pointing out, it's like, also there's all the, you know, idols and stuff like that. People who act cutesy and moe, that's like a whole thing.
That feels slightly different than what I'm thinking on here, though. It'd be different if this was like a model do it, but it's someone who looks like they're 7, who's like, I made a pigeon out of ice. And everyone's like, oh, so kawaii, and like hitting like on their fucking buttons and shit. I don't know. That seems weird to me. Again, though, I was at no point a 16-year-old girl, so maybe that was something that at the time I'd have been like, oh yeah, that's adorbs as fuck. So who knows?
Oh no, Chris, you should understand it still. You are a 29-year-old otaku.
Yeah. So. Amongst other things.
This is actually, like, of everything, like, probably the more kind of grounded moment that we've seen from Momo's whole, like, she is famous for doing cute things thing. This makes a whole lot more sense to me than, like, she was sought out from a very young age to point out which stuffed animals were cute. And she's just like, oh, okay. She does these really impressive creations that get put up on Instagram and people are super into them. So she's, you know, a minor celebrity. And so she has this random autograph signing session in the middle of the Team Shokugeki. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. It's a little bit of a weird kind of almost a step down or aside, I guess. Yes, that statue is grounded. Shut up. We see a bit of Erina cooking. Okay. She's not even like doing anything crazy. She's just like, oh, she's making this, and now she's making this. Okay.
Well, she seems. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably reading into it a little much. It seems like they're trying to kind of get across. She seems kind of comfortable and happy cooking, which I guess wouldn't be the case considering what kind of consideration, like what kind of mind state she goes into when she cooks a lot recently, with her dad being around. Maybe it's just me looking into it, but it looks like in the panels where we see her, she's almost just about smiling, which is a pretty good state, I suppose, to see her in when her dad's so close in the vicinity.
She's clearly very confident and comfortable at the very least.
Oh yeah.
The thing about this that stands out to me is that the last chapter we had Momo doing all these ridiculous, crazy things. You know, she would do icing is on all of my cookies now. And, now I will meld this. Doing all these very impressive things. And everyone's just like, got the coffee filters, got the whipped cream. She seems to be doing much more normal, mundane cooking things. And people are like, oh, look at how beautiful she looks. I mean,
oh my God, you're so beautiful. She's like, I just want to read.
Just leave her alone. She's in a library. Just be her friend. And eventually she finishes up, and she has created souffle. I don't speak French. Which is this kind of tall, narrow-looking souffle, which An digs into, and she realizes that there is a layer of bean paste in it, which means that it is actually a dorayaki, the same as Megumi's dish was in the previous bout. So this isn't really explored too much because it has more to do with everyone's reaction to it, which we'll get to in a second. But I think that the idea that they're going for here is going to be Erina took an idea, a concept that Megumi had that was good, in concept, but she just didn't execute it properly. And then she implemented it into this dish to show that she had the capability to defeat Momo. I don't know. It's a little bit of a weird thing.
It's almost a little like derogatory when it doesn't need to be. It's not as though I went out of that fight being like, man, I wish Todoroki had been able to defeat her. Like, clearly they established like it was a dish.
It would have been really impressive considering that he's over in My Hero. Okay, I'm sorry, just shitting on you for no reason. Todokoro is actually pretty close to Todoroki. Yeah.
But yeah, like Megumi, like we know she succeeded in being a match for her. We didn't need to like hammer in that, but.
Mm-hmm. I suppose that the exact meaning of this hasn't been explained yet, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that. I'm certain that there are people who are like, why is Erina? It's the same as they've been for, a couple of weeks. So I'm just like, whatever. I'll wait and see before I pass judgment on that. In general, though, this really doesn't seem like it's living up to the build-up to Erina cooking, because we didn't really see anything that she did shown in any like impressive context. Like I said, she seems like she was just doing some regular cooking stuff in a mundane way. There was no moment where she was chopping ingredients up really fast or anything like that. So it's just kind of unusual that it's so grounded and low-key. Now, that said, let's talk about how she squished a couple of girls between her thighs.
What can you possibly mean about that, Nick? I don't.
Okay, so the layers of the dorayaki souffle are basically described by An and the MC girl as if they're being squished by the softness, which they imagine as if they're naked and are being squeezed between a teacher cosplay Erina's thighs, like giant cosplay, like giant snoo Erina basically is squeezing them between her thighs, and they want to have more fluffy, silky smooth special lessons heart sign.
Here's the thing. So that's all very suggestive, things like that. Far and away, the dirtiest part of this image is the sound effect that accompanies it, which is smish. In the bottom right-hand corner, it is smish. That is the most fucking revolting sound effect I can think of for this moment. It is so dirty to think, what could smish possibly be implying? And you just think of like...
Chris, it's a sexy bone crushing.
It sounds like such a dirty sound effect for this moment, and you have to appreciate that they've really just like taken Erina as the sexy school teacher gimmick to just the nth degree this time. They're like, we may never have another shot with it again, so let's really just go hog wild on it.
I think that this is one of the dirtiest images we've gotten from Food Wars in a long time. And it's not even all that explicit, because, the two girls are drawn small enough that you can't exactly see, their naughty bits too well. But just the very straightforward, on the nose, she's crushing them between her thighs of it. It's like, that is, wow. No, nothing less like, oh, it's like I'm trapped in a magician's box I'm naked in a barrel going over a waterfall. It's like I'm small and I'm being crushed between a giant teacher's naked thighs.
Yeah.
Ugh. Stop telling me that about yourself.
Yeah, it's a very weird image there.
And Erina has offered her souffle to Momo to try as well. I hope that doesn't go anywhere because Momo looks far too young for this.
Yeah, you're gonna get something, I imagine, right? Maybe not the whole thing, but maybe not being Smish'd, but
Smish'd. The more you say it,
it's a fucking gross sound effect. Smish, I imagined, is the sound effect you get when you take like a bunch of Twinkies and you dunk them in water and then you just like press them beneath the hammer. Like that's when you get smish.
Okay, someone has pointed in the chat. Didn't they also do getting crushed between the boobs? Yes, but that's not a common fetish. Okay,
crushed between boobs.
Yeah,
that's we need to update your Pornhub, Nick.
Okay. Never mind. We're not going to get into this. I could argue this, but I'm not going to. All right. Let's talk about Dr. Stone. There is no nudity in this one this time, so it's Z equals 42, tail for the ages. Last time, Ruri revealed that she had always known Senku's last name, which is Ishigami, which is also the name of the village, Ishigami Village. So this chapter is primarily a flashback. Explained actually partially through Senku's help, because when she explains this to him, he kind of like, oh, all the pieces fit together. This all makes sense now. Because he knows something that we don't.
It's time to get stoned!
Thank you, Chris. One of the details he actually points out ahead of time is like, hey, if everyone on Earth's turned to stone, then who the heck started this village? And I believe the assumption we were working on was just, well, you came out by happenstance, so why couldn't everyone else have? But he also points out, and why do Kohaku and Ruri look like they're half Japanese? So he's figured this out. Kohaku's completely lost, of course.
Do they look half Japanese?
That's what he says.
It was that moment where I'm just like, sure, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know, Senku, you've got super blonde hair, too. Senku says, like, so I bet that you are probably actually familiar with my name through something from the shamaness folklore. Or it's like, that is true. The 100th tale in the 100 Tales is called Senku Ishigami. And I like the wording that her mother had to explain to her, which is like, this story actually happened. I was like, oh, all the manga stories didn't happen.
There was not actually a rubber pirate that sailed around the world with a shape-changing reindeer and Ace Ventura cyborg. Like, God damn it!
So, of course, the explanation now ends up being like, no, that actually was just taken from manga. It wasn't a periodical reference. It was it's literally that story came from manga from long ago.
Yeah, I think I threw that out there as a theory that all the tales that she knew were all just manga series passed down by somebody else. Which means Ice Shield 21 could be a story in their world. Holy shit!
And so the Devil Bats won the Christmas Bowl. But wait, didn't they have like another match they had to win before they won that? No, they didn't. They just won it.
Did they have to beat the real Ice Shield 21?
And the real Ice Shield 21 wasn't disappointing.
No, it turns out it was fucking the Bando Spider guys all along, because I guess he was slightly better.
Wanta had an awesome showdown with his idol's son, and nothing else happened. Kakei taught all of his hand techniques to Jumanji, and he used them.
And it was really satisfying to watch him get to use those.
Oh, man.
Thank God.
Karin was the first female player in the series, and she was not disappointing in any way.
And she was very relevant. It was very, very significant that she
had
was
a
in the
showdown
match.
with Hiruma that totally happened.
Thank God the series that series didn't exist when we did weekly manga recap. Because I can only imagine the disappointment that would come out of like several chapters of that build up and us being like, "Holy shit! Kate definitely said he's going to teach all of his hand techniques to Jumanji, and there's the first female player, and she's the quarterback of that team, and we got all these cool things built up." And then just watching them all not happen.
Set into that would have been, I'm sure, really, really weird for people to see happening in real time. It's like the excitement slowly died down.
Well, there's nothing
it's like, I'm not going to America. This is going to be great.
Oh, wait, this dude runs 4.2 seconds. Why is he being eliminated so quickly then? Is 4.2 not a big deal anymore? Fucking random German guy.
So you may recall that Senku's father was briefly viewed in a previous flashback that Senku experienced when he explained how much science meant to him early on. And we see a very young Senku who doesn't really understand how, distance works. And his father is explaining stuff to him. But he's just kind of teasing him about it, and Senku's like, "No, cut the bullshit. Tell me the actual reason why things are happening.
Give me cold hard facts, pops.
Enough of the bedtime stories, you fucker." And Senku's father brings up, it's like, "See, the moon just looks like it's following you because it's so incredibly far away. And since I failed the astronaut selection trials fabulously, alas, the moon remains but a distant dream for me as well." Huh. Astronaut exams. He explains that, they had, a swimming exam, and he failed it horribly because he's not a very good swimmer, and also he got a Charlie horse. So little Senku decides from this that he wants to go to space. And so, again, the teacher's like, "Oh, that's something to look forward to when you grow." "No, I'm going wait right now." Making a rocket. But as Senku goes through his growing up, doing stuff with taiju and stuff, eventually some time passes and his father hears that they're having another recruitment session for astronauts, and Senku gets it in his head that he's going to help his father to learn to swim, and so he and taiju abduct a dummy from the science room at their school, and the science dummy talks. Okay. Look, Chris, Taiju's back.
I don't know who that is anymore.
Oh,
there's a moment where I was like, I don't know this character.
Oh, it's been too long. It's faded from your memory.
All I know is he has a voice. And that's about it.
Oh, okay. So, Senku basically uses electric stimulations in conjunction with the dummy thing so that they can... Oh, they're using it for tests. Okay. That's what they're doing. Got it. I assume that that's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're testing it on the dummy.
To see how it works.
Yeah, so that they can then use it on the dad.
Mm-hmm. So then they put a special weird bodysuit on him and then stimulate him with electric impulses so that he will do a sort of butterfly stroke motion. And so the time for the selection trials, and he passes. Yes, he does the butterfly stroke perfectly well. And I love how immediately after you see him swimming perfectly, goes before a seat of guys, and they're like, "So you're saying that bizarre suit was made by a 10-year-old? So did it help you learn how to swim?" "No, of course it did."
I love that.
I flailed around like an idiot. But the fact that Senku was trying so hard to help him out made him really, really work hard so that he could clear the swimming test, so that he could live up to his son's expectations. Oh, that's sweet. And 5 years later, after much preparation, a mission sending astronauts into space came up, and it included a Japanese astronaut, Byakuya Ishigami.
Finally, a Byakuya in fucking manga who doesn't just eat chodes. Fucking, it's been forever. I didn't think we'd ever get one. And yeah, I'm throwing shade at Bleach. Fight me.
So we see that as they're getting ready to leave, he kind of notices reporters, goes over to the camera, grabs the microphone, and promises Senku that he's going to bring home a whole bunch of science souvenirs. And then they blast off. And 3 days later, the mysterious flash of light occurred and turned everyone to stone. So the person who started the village was Byakuya Ishigami, Senku's father. And so, yeah, okay. They took off into space. They weren't there when the incident occurred, and then they crash landed and restarted humanity, basically. It was one of those kinds of turns that a story takes sometimes where it's like, I didn't really see it coming, but it fits so perfectly with everything. It's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. So, yes, Chris, you have a question, Mr. Hilarious?
I saw it coming.
You saw it coming?
Yeah. I predicted this last week. And this is to counterbalance the fact that I totally fucked up Black Clover last week. So it was a perfect yin and yang of like great prediction and awful prediction.
So good job, dude.
Yeah, I called this, but I think more than anything, I was just supremely excited about this chapter because it was a very emotional chapter of showing more of this relationship with Senku and his dad. We kind of projected a bit of it the previous time his dad was mentioned about like Senku's dad. They gave so much to help his son kind of invest in science, and we get a little bit more of a glimpse into that. It looks like his father's a professor, so it seems like that may have been something a little bit up the alley. But you do see their relationship here. And it's extremely sweet hearing that. You know, we still don't actually get the context of what Rory's story is. We know what that Senku story is, and obviously there's a very touching kind of story, I imagine, between Senku's father, passed down the story of his kid. But what was really sad about this chapter to me, Nick?
What's that?
I think this may have sunk the only other ship I really had an investment in, which was Kohaku and Senku, because by this logic, she's like his very distant, like great grandniece.
I don't really care.
You don't.
They did the same thing in Time Force, Chris. Come on.
They did. Yeah, I guess it could be okay. All right, cool. All right, let's get together then. Woo!
Once it becomes distant enough, it doesn't really matter.
There's still a little bit of a weirdness to it. I don't know.
3,000 years of generations, Chris.
I don't know. I mean, everyone's.
If you go back that far, we're related.
Well, I'm not trying to fuck you, though.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Have I been doing this podcast and leading you on? You're like, no,
I have to go.
It's fine. It's just, I guess we'll just keep doing this for nothing then. No, I sincerely, I enjoyed this chapter. I really thought it was a very sweet sentiment that we got across there, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the next chapters go. I can tell you right now, I might bawl like a child if that story about Senku is sad. Nick, I'm losing my shit recently. I went on like a sadness kick. I like decided to start watching the final scene from Coco, and then I was like, all right, let me watch some scenes from Lost. And then I started watching that scene from Up, and then I started watching the Eddie Guerrero Hurt video, and I watched the Connor the Crusher tribute. I just went through a sadness lodge. It was just over and over again.
I have to keep crying.
It was almost like a challenge. Like, I was like, how sad can I make myself?
Random aside, a couple of people said that the Iron Giant was bad, and I was like, what kind of heartless monsters are you?
I haven't even seen it. I know it's a sad movie. Superman.
You stay, I go. No following.
But yeah, no, I enjoy this a lot, and I'm looking forward to the next couple chapters. I think it's gonna be.
I liked seeing the father-son relationship between Senku and Byakuya. We didn't really get a strong parental relationship at all in iShield 21. This is the first time we've really seen something like this that Inagaki Sensei has done.
The closest I think you could say would be Jumanji's father by the end realized he was a dickhead and was supportive of his son, but that's about it.
I mean, like, almost every parent in iShield 21 was weird. I think, like, Momori's mother was the most supportive in all of it, and she was barely in it.
Well, actually, no. It was Kumosobi's parents. They both were super supportive.
Kumosobi's parents were great.
Yeah, they were both super supportive of him.
Yeah.
All right. Are we jumping over to We Never Learned, and are we doing Bozebeats?
We can talk about Bozebeats first. Why not?
Okay.
Bozebeats is the jumpstart that we got this week. It is a series about exorcising demons, but with a technological twist. So they're these kind of Buddhist ghost busters, basically. And it's centered around this protagonist that we meet in the first chapter. He's a wild boy who's been raised by wolves and has lost his memory. His name is Tamaki. By the end of the series, his adoptive mother, Wolf, gets killed by a demon. And then the guy who's going to become his mentor has killed the demon. And basically, Tamaki realizes that he's got to actually leave the forest that he has been growing up in his entire, as far back as he can remember, and find his own way. And he, several months later, has also become this Buddhist shaman ghost hunter guy. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this series. I don't know how to phrase it. I feel like they buried the lead, except they didn't. They opened up with the lead, then just stopped showing the lead for a very long time, because the series starts off with a bunch of, like, it looks like Buddhist cops fighting a giant dragon. It looks like something out of Yu-Gi-Oh! With, like, the cops actually reacting to giant hologram dragons in the sky. You're like, holy shit, this looks awesome. What's happening? And then it's like
all you need is kill ghost hunter kind of style thing.
It's like right off the bat, and then it just cuts away to the story in the woods, which isn't bad, but I'm just like, what's the dragon thing all about? What was with the cops fighting the dragons? I'm so confused. What's happening? And we spend a really long time, and there's this moment when Bose is like talking to the wolf and the kid, and has to like tell him like, don't worry, I'm not gonna eat you. I'm a vegetarian, in this big dramatic pose and everything. And at first I thought this was very silly, until I was like, no, that's exactly how vegans announce that they're vegetarian or vegan to you, and have to make a big deal out of it. So that was fine. But all this stuff is happening for so long before finally, like, a monster attacks and the wolf, like, goes crazy and tries to fight it. And then we see Bose drop this box that he has, that he said is for his self-defense, drops it, opens it up, and it's filled with an enormous minigun that I was like, you should have started with this sooner. Holy shit, why did we take so long to get to this? This is awesome. It is a Gatling gun that fires out prayer bead rounds. That shit is so awesome, and they didn't lead with it. That was a mistake. It was still a very good chapter, but fuck, man. You should have announced, I'd have made a fucking effort so that every chapter included a shot of the prayer bead minigun.
It's a series that's got some good art, and, you know, the aesthetic of it is cool. It's like, oh yeah, we're shamans with this almost kind of steampunkish sort of technology. I say steampunkish, I mean more, I guess, cyberpunk in a way. But yeah, the whole thing with Tamaki, he is, you know, it's a character that's kind of been done before. So, you know, oh, I've lost my memory. I don't know who I am. I have to find my way. I've been running away from pursuing my destiny because I have to do stuff here. But I'm thrust out into the world. It's very straightforward. Call the hero thing, and it's not particularly engaging in the way that it's done, I don't think. But all that, I do appreciate that entire plot is wrapped up and done with in the first chapter, so you get a good idea of who he is, where he's coming from, and what he wants to do. That is all established very well, so I feel as though when we get to the second chapter, it's like, okay, this is who Tamaki is, and so I know what's driving him. And then we can get into what he's actually going to do for the rest of the series. So that's fine. We're all set up to have this series, and I'm glad for that. I have no idea, though, if this is going to be good or not, because the story that we just had, I wasn't all that into. I just know I was like, okay, we're set up to potentially have a good one. And I do like the way the art looks and the way that the combat stuff looks. So it's really just comes down to, all right, is the plot that is starting now going to be good or not? Because we aren't really set up to do anything at this point. Just Tamaki must now go and find his own way and continue his training.
His own way. No, I agree with you to an extent. I think I dug the story a little bit more. I could definitely see the quality of writing to it, though I agree it was a little dry. It's stuff that we have seen before, but seeing it before doesn't necessarily make it bad. I think that what we can kind of glimpse from the execution is that there is a quality writing behind this. So I'm eager to see this go into a new direction that hopefully gives us something a little bit more interesting. I think the part I was most disappointed by is the end of the chapter reveals that Bose is not with him. That it's, he's going to be trained under this new other Bose, basically.
Yeah, who's clumsy and neglectful. Yeah.
Not just clumsy, horrible at his job. He just turns around and there's kids playing with like his fucking ghost container.
Don't smash the demon container.
I'm like, oh, you fools! And that bummed me out because I actually liked the lead a lot from the chapter. Well, no, I guess not lead, but the main guy we saw from this chapter and followed along. I was really digging him. So hopefully we get to see more of him. But I can dig this. And I'll be looking forward to seeing the next couple chapters. See if it's any better, essentially. All right. Shall we move along to We Never Learn, Nick?
Yes.
We Never Learn, question 46. Her feminine wiles X him.
That sounds dirty.
It does, but it wasn't 19 words long, so this is maybe my favorite chapter title ever.
It's only one line long in my notes. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, last chapter, Kirisu's sister showed up. Miharu, as we find her name is. She may have revealed it last week. I don't know. I don't really care. Miharu showed up and got the misunderstanding that Kirisu and Yuiga were like an indecent, salacious, scandalous kind of couple of teacher and student. And
with matching his and hers swimsuit shampoo caps.
Exactly, as everyone knows they might have. And in that, decided that she couldn't allow her sister, who she has such respect for, to be like lured in by this guy. So she was going to steal him away using her feminine wiles and doing it under the guise of trying to help him with his studies. So that's what this chapter is. It's a continuation of that. And we get a series of jokes, basically, at the start, how Miharu is from an all-girls academy. She doesn't have experience with boys, so she's very nervous and awkward and shy around him. Basically, I guess she's meant to fill in a bit of a role the series didn't have 100% of, which was like a tsundere kind of character. Because looking back,
she basically is, I think, because she is mistrustful of Yuiga at first and doesn't really like him.
Yeah, she seems to fill in that role.
But she's very similar to Haru in a lot of archetypical ways. She's the younger sister of another character who is a love interest to him, and she doesn't like him at first.
Yes. And I think what kind of hits me is that now having this character in the series, I realize how better the series is without that kind of character in it. Because all of her jokes, and this usually is one of the things I could pull out from We Never Learned, is they usually have at least one or two jokes that go overboard and make me laugh from that. Everything here really feels like a joke we've seen before. She first is really far away because she doesn't want to get close to him. And then she calls him by her name. And she's like, Iga boy called me by her name.
Which we had in an emotional moment with Iruka. And now it's like, well, now that's a joke. But.
Yeah. But then there's a small moment there where Kirisu talks to Yuiga and starts telling him a story about their dog, Pero.
Which means dog.
Yeah, just means dog. And the story of Pero is they got a pet dog, and Miharu loved that dog and kept demanding it do treats to get his food over and over again to the point where she demanded the dog to beat her in chess, at which point the dog vanished and left a note behind that said, "Please don't come for me. I'm not coming back. Arf."
I love this. I mean, basically, the setup we had last chapter was so convoluted, and I thought that it was going to go in such a stupid direction. The fact that it led to this one joke makes it all worth it because it's such a perfect escalation. It's like, oh, look, Miharu loves her doggy. And then there's like, hey, Pero, shake. Yeah, now you can have food. Okay, now go chase that bird. Then you can have your food. Now beat me a chest and then you can have your food. And she's always got this, perpetually like, it's like, yay, Pero. So excited while the dog's getting more and more worried. And then it leaves and know for why it's running away.
Nick, I couldn't.
Which means that her teaching was working because do you understand how legible that handwriting is for someone who doesn't have opposable thumbs?
Nick, I want to laugh at this joke, but I can't because I feel too bad for this fictional dog out there.
Me
Nick.
too. I honestly do. I want like Pero to somehow come back and make amends, and Miharu to make amends with him.
It's okay there, Nick, because I have crafted a story here. Pero ran away.
Okay.
And he was very scared and lonely and hungry. But he was found by a very kind old man whose name was Amori. And together, the two of them got many, many peanuts together and were able to live happily ever after with their peanuts and their dog peanuts for dogs. Because I think regular peanuts go to dogs. Say, like,
are peanuts okay for dogs to have?
I'm not sure. But in my world, Pero was very happy with Amori and his peanuts. And I made a picture of it so that you can see that.
I mean, I honestly feel really bad for Miharu because, like, yes, she drives the dog away, but the very first thing that Kirisu says is, Miharu really loved that dog. And you can tell in the way that she's interacting with Pero. It's like, no, she does. And she's really upset when Pero leaves. It's like she just didn't really realize what she was doing because she was a dumb little girl with a perfectionist streak. So it's like, oh, I want her to learn her lesson and for them to make amends. Even though that dog is going to be ancient in dog years by this point.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to continuation of that. Fingers crossed.
Probably not. It's a throwaway joke, but it made me feel many things.
And they continue on, and essentially what happens is Miharu starts to get the wrong impression seeing them talking and thinks, oh no, I'm not sexy enough, so I gotta really turn it up. So she starts saying like, oh, I'm a little hot, and like pulling on her shirt. At which point I thought Yueka would be like, is everything okay? Because you've been here like 10 minutes. You've had to strip a layer of clothing off each time. Like I'm wearing like 3 layers. It's not that hot out right now. What's going on? Are you okay? But he is immune to her charms because he actually thinks this is part of the test. Like that she's trying to like distract him. Because she keeps.
She's trying to distract me with her cleavage.
She keeps like nudged up against him. But then there's this moment where fucking Kirisu tries to stand up and her legs fell asleep. And she doesn't just like, oh, my legs are like got pins and needles. She instead fucking falls over like, my legs have stopped working completely. Falls over, breast into face of Yuega. And you're just like, no, I refuse to believe that Kirisu has ever managed to competently accomplish anything in her life if she is this bad at just existing. There is a level of incompetence which is tolerable, and she has surpassed it if she just fucked up standing up. She leaves because she has to go fucking, I don't know, shake her legs against the cinder block until they gain feeling again. At which point Miharu tries to do another like sliding over thing. She tries to essentially do the same thing, but instead when she does it, her dress hikes up too much. And
well, I like the detail that when she does it, she's like announcing her attack because she's like, fire! and then Yuiga's like, why did you yell fire when you tripped?
It pulled up her dress, so Yuega's like, you should check on that. So she has the whole like, oh, I'll never live this down, I'll never get married moment. Kirisu comes out. She opened up a can of fruits for everybody to enjoy. And I was like, I guess she accomplished one thing. Until Yuega announces to everybody she doesn't even have 100% success rate at doing this because the last time she tried to open a can, she cut her hand. How does she function, Nick? I get that she was an ice skater. I get that she was a good teacher. She fails at everything else.
That's the joke, Chris.
I know, but there's so much to life that's not teaching her ice skating, and she's bad at all of it. I'm getting the weird laggy pages stuff. Essentially, what kind of comes out of it is Yuiga has a heart-to-heart conversation with Miharu in regards to like, you know, your sister's doing really great about this, and you know, Miharu's like, no, she's destined to be a teacher or an ice skater and things along those lines. Yuiga has this, you know, speech to her about like, you know, not a lot of people understand your sister. A lot of people, I think, get the wrong impression of her, but I understand who she is, and I understand that she cares more about her students than anything else in the world. And she's very kind, and she's very, you know, thoughtful and wants to see them succeed. And, you know, Miharu is about to kind of counter on this, and then Kirisu comes out and is like, Yuiga is great. He's diligent and kind-hearted, and starts patting him on the head. And that's when they realize that she accidentally drank a can of alcohol that looked a lot like the fruit cocktail juice she was drinking before. And as we recall, a single drink turns Kirisu into a highly complimentary person.
Yep.
That's basically the chapter. It ends with them being like, I guess we'll have to like help her, you know, recover. But then Kiharu's like, no, I wasn't. Or Miharu's like, it wasn't a joke. You're 24 hours to me, bitch. We're finishing this. He's like, oh.
Well, like Kirisu, not Kirisu. It is Kirisu. Yes. What am I doing? Sleeps off, you know, her drunkenness and wakes up with a hangover and looks over, and Yuiga's like, stop, please. There were some jokes in this that I did like, aside from just the Pero one. In general, I do think that a lot of the shenanigans were like, okay, seen it before. Oh, and a lot of it you could really see coming with Miharu trying and failing to seduce Yuiga because, of course, she doesn't know what she's doing. I do think that out of the many different, you know, prominent female characters we've gotten introduced in the series, she's probably had the least effective introduction out of them so far. So I'm sure that she'll pop up again, and maybe she'll do better in the future.
She's definitely going to, because they make a point of her saying that she's staying around. And I'll save my sister next time for sure, so I'm sure she'll reoccur. She might get better. I mean, we weren't a huge fan of Udoka when she first showed up, so she could get better with time.
All right. Let's move on to The Promised Neverland, Chapter 70, Hide and Seek. So last time, Emma was introduced to Lucas, who was from the... what do you got? Glory Bell House. Same as the nameless geezer that is with Ray right now. So Emma asked him, was like, hey, you know, did you get here the same way that I did? Basically explaining very quickly what she's done. And then he says, you know, I recognize your clothes. So you've been to B0632 as well. And so, you know, I recognize that. I was scared to ask, but is he alive? And I'm like, I knew you were going to do this. I knew you were going to not say his name like an asshole.
Oh, Nick. Yeah, this chapter is straight out of Lost, where everything the characters say
so annoying.
Is framed to be as infuriating and frustrating as possible. It's not just that. They have to end this chapter.
There's another character.
It goes beyond that. They have to do it again where they have
There's a place.
They have to lead you up to like, all the answers to everything you're seeking are behind this door. Shall we go in? Hard cut. It's like, we're not going to go back to that next week. We might not even get back to it next week. We might be with Raymond. What's his name next week? What's his name? I still don't know, because you didn't say his name. You just said he. You're being frustrated. God damn it, don't do this to me.
Well, Chris, we were told a gender and a name last week, and there were a lot of characters introduced. So in order to make up for that, there have to be a lot more unanswered questions this week just to keep us going. Anyway, Lucas is glad to learn that he is alive. And, fuck's sake, don't do this to me again. We get a flashback from his perspective of when, of course, they were trying to escape from Goalie Pond. Actually, we see that Luvis tore his arm off, which is pretty ridiculous. And he was, however, saved by her. Someone I didn't know. Someone because I had never seen her before. She said that she use fucking names. He's
like, no, I wouldn't want to complicate
no. We have to make this a reveal later too.
I honestly didn't. I never caught her name. She saved my life. Never asked for a name.
Yeah, she showed me where she had been hiding, and I was never caught her name. No.
Yeah, she was like, "My name is," and I said, "Stop." She said, "My name is," and I said, "Shikashim Slady." And every time she tried to say her name, I did that joke. She stopped saying her name.
It's a really great way to get people to stop trying to tell you their name.
So I guess then her name is Slim Shady. By the way, then.
Yeah. She never actually corrected me.
Yeah. I don't know if she's the real Slim Shady, but, it's okay if she's an imitating.
But also, apparently her name is what? Who? And Slim Shady.
Craziness.
We also don't really get a good look at her face as well. So kind of thinking, like, is this supposed to be someone who maybe is someone we have already seen, or maybe is related to someone that we've seen? She seems to be black, so maybe she's somehow related to Crone, was an idea that I thought.
It's tough because I can't tell if it's supposed to be the shadowing, though. It almost looks like she has, like, light hair, though.
It does look like light hair.
Although another panel says the fear that girl felt, and she looks like she has darker hair there. I don't know. It's really tough to tell.
Maybe she has hair extensions, Chris.
It's very possible. I guess I can't tell. I don't think it's supposed to be Crone, though, because I think Crone they really kind of put across was a farm kid through and through. So I have no idea if it's... I think this is just supposed to be someone we get from a later reveal.
So Lucas explains that, she had this great hiding spot so the monsters would not find her. She said she was playing hide and seek the whole time. And we were never discovered. So the poachers assumed that I had run away, but I've actually been using the windmill as a base and hiding here for 13 years. I became someone who didn't exist. And the only ones who know that I'm alive are you and the kids, and also the guard at the door, Adam. Meanwhile, the girl died. She just got sick. It happens. So he has often thought of escaping. He didn't have a pen. He couldn't get through the door. But he wants to destroy the hunting ground before he does anything else. Makes sense. And he did actually find the place that Emma is actually looking for. The reason why Mr. Minerva has called everyone there. But he didn't have a pen, so he couldn't actually get through this doorway, and he leads her down this secret passageway through a false wall. But they need Emma's pen in order to actually get through.
Correct me on something here. I might be just forgetting this. How did the lore of the pen really start? Was it that the farms all had one, or is it something that Crone
just found one?
Okay.
Someone dropped it.
Because they also had a pen with this group that Lucas was a part of. Obviously, he doesn't have it now, but that was how they found the shelter, wasn't it? That's because it's the first function of the pen.
No Name has the pen.
So it could just be something that I'm trying to figure out if it's something Minerva specifically leaves around, or if it's something that they get from the the farm.
Presumably Minerva has left them around in different places for people to use in order to meet him here.
Okay.
But yes, Crone just found hers in the training center. It was dropped by someone that she saw talking with one of the demons. Probably deliberately, honestly. So they're going to go and check out Mr. Minerva's door to what he really intends for us. But enough about that. You don't care about that. Bah! We got more important things to talk about than, the mystery being explained. We cut back actually over to No Name and Ray, who are still, looking around in the woods, trying to get to Emma. Ray's getting frustrated because it took them so long in order to escape from the poachers, and now they come back and all this. And Ray's, basically griping at him, I'm gonna go to Goldie Pond. I gotta go save Emma. And No Name says no, we're actually already here. We're at Goldie Pond. And Ray's there's nothing here. But the old man says that no. Goldie Pond is a secret hunting ground, just like the shelter it is below the surface. It's weird because I'm pretty sure we saw like sky in the chases.
Yes, we've certainly seen open sky.
I think that we even actually first suggested when she showed up in Goldie Pond that like, well, I don't know, there's a sky, so it's not like she could be underground. I was like, but I guess they could. That's how it is then.
It could just be like, what was it, the Truman Show, where it's like an artificial sky.
Yeah.
That was a shitty movie.
Wow.
Take that, Truman Show. Take that, Truman Show, a movie I watched when I was 8.
Oh, man. Oh, actually, yes, as pointed out in the chat, yeah, there was also the artificial sky in Hueco Mundo. Yeah. So, yeah, the old man does know of a couple of potential routes that they could go inside of to get into Goldie Pond, but that's what they're going to do one way or another to try and go save Emma. Indeed. So a couple of different things are now moving now. So I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes from here.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the 7 Deadly Sins, chapter 250, composition. There it is. So last time, Merlin and Zeldris were having a conversation, a very pleasant one. They were hashing out some business deals when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Zeldris got nuked into space. And that's where we pick up, as everyone kind of is like, what the fuck just happened? And Merlin's like, one of the 4 archangels sent Zeldris' presence and sent him into the heavens to attack. Or like, launched an attack from the heavens. And they're like, you knew about that? And she's like, absolutely. Yeah. So I deliberately riled him up so he'd stay focused on me and take a direct hit. All right, let's go. Poof. And then they bamf away. We cut up to the Archangel, where she's having a bit of a conversation with Gil Thunder and the rest of them, Hendrickson. Gil Thunder has a little bit of some anger here because he's still like, why did you take Margaret from me? What are you doing? And you're like, hey, you should be proud, you know? She gave herself so you and everyone else could be saved. We're not evil. Come on.
You can trust us. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Turns out, obviously, Zeldris is not dead, and he's very pissed that they're around. So he goes to make a very big attack, opening up like a lightning bolt from the heavens. It's unclear what happens because we just see the attack happen and like shadows within it. That could just be their sky base they're in, and she got everyone out safely. So who knows? But we cut away to the Camelot, I believe, right? I think that's where everyone else is. And Chandler, the great demon lord Chandler, is sitting outside, very happy because he sees that Elizabeth has escaped. He hears about it from Melodious, so he's always, ooh, if she's escaped, then I could take this as my opportunity to start killing her. So, sorry about that, and he sends out Demi-Devilmons with his face to go kill her. We cut aside then, and we see that the teleported boar's hat has been planted over the capital Camelot, which is kind of currently under demon control. I believe what happens here is they basically have Diane trick them into scaring them, and she uses that to teleport people away. I'm not entirely sure what happens there.
I think that I don't know.
She scares the villagers, and Merlin uses that to do to launch them into that flower. I'm not entirely certain.
I don't really know exactly what happened either. I know that they're being teleported, and they also get teleported out of the flower's grasp. So maybe she needs them to stand still for a second or something.
Or maybe needs them to be afraid. I don't know. I'm sure there's a logical explanation for this. I've just probably forgotten the details of it. The important thing that happens is that Elizabeth runs into them. And as she's running up, one of the mustached Devimon, one of the Chandlermon, I guess as we will call them, attacks her with his, I guess, razor wing? I don't know.
Pretty much.
And essentially almost scalps her. Like, it catches her right above the top of the head. And it
was actually a really scary moment when I saw that, because I was like, holy shit, it killed her. Because, there's that whole thing looming over her head of the curse is going to kill her. which is actually a really effective way of thinking like, oh, she's like perpetually in danger.
Yes.
So.
At which point, Diane stomps him into dust by saying, "How dare you do that to a girl's face?" Because girls care about their looks, apparently. And then they have a little bit of a moment there between Diane and Elizabeth where she's, trying to take care of her. And Elizabeth has this very sweet sentiment there about how, she realizes the danger she's in and she doesn't care because she knows she has to stop him because if he becomes the Demon Lord, then they'll never see each other again. And she reassures Diane by saying, it's okay. No matter what happens, I'll keep coming back. So when I do, please let's be friends again. Try to relieve her because, it's a very real possibility your friend might die in the process of this. And even though Elizabeth comes back, her memories do not. And it's essentially like losing that person in very much that way. So it's a very sweet sentiment. The chapter ends with Elizabeth solemnly promising that even if it costs her life, she will save him. So please, everyone, lend her their strength.
Elizabeth has gotten really cool in the recent Seven Deadly Sins. I really like the direction her character has taken, and she's actually gotten a lot more interesting since she's had to place herself as the leader of the opposition group and kind of take that leadership role that Meliodas left vacant.
Absolutely, I'm digging it immensely. I think it's been pretty satisfying to see. And I like this chapter for.
All right, let's talk about Black Clover. Page 140. You probably don't know, but... ... So the last chapter ended with a door opening up and a mysterious figure speaking very slowly about all the disturbance and noise going on as Gauche and Gordon and Gray were trying to fight off members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. We see that character now. And he's got very long, scraggly hair. And yes, he does talk really, really slowly. And he starts to introduce himself. And then Gauche is just like, wow, this guy talks slowly. Hey, who are you? Why are you in our hideout? And he's like, well... And then everyone's like, hey, he was going to explain himself. You just interrupted him. And Gauche is like, shut up!
I'm completely on Gauche's side here. Like, look, not for nothing. Fucking talk faster. Like, I've never heard of a condition where you're just like, I spend hours getting, and it's that's like innately.
What's that old joke? The Society of People who speak very slowly or something like that. Like the sloth joke in
yeah, I was gonna say that the sloth joke from Zootopia is the one I go with. Where you're like, eventually you would just start trying to finish their fucking sentences for them. Where you're like, I don't have time for this. Look, if you just showed up and you were my best friend, maybe this would be a different situation. But you just popped out of my fucking guild out of nowhere, so I definitely have questions.
Who are you?
Are you Vanessa?
No, he did not Vanessa. Although she might be hidden in his fucking hair. There's enough of it. So the zombie creation hybrid thing that they have launches an attack at him, and he moves the part of the building that he's on out of the way. So he starts to introduce himself again. And while he's doing that, Gauche is lost in thought because he realizes that, oh, this must be the rumored ghost who rearranges the hideout that people think is the cause behind it. There's also a very brief moment where Gauche is like, this guy's the ghost, and then Gordon's like, no, he's a living human, I'm positive. And Gauche says, how can you tell? It's like, that's random, okay.
Because there are birds in his hair, and only a person would have birds flock to them.
Maybe it's hinting towards something that Gordon is capable of doing that we don't really have the context for yet. Yes, there are birds nesting in his hair because it's so long and thick. And Gauche seems to hold this against him because he says, the jerk's keeping birds in his hair. He's done nothing to you yet. What's wrong with you, Gauche? For some reason, the Eye of the Midnight Sun get really confident after seeing this demonstration. Thank you, Chris.
I'm just
Keep yourself entertained. That's okay, buddy. The other Midnight Suns somehow are emboldened by the demonstration of this guy's powers because, like, if all you can do is shuffle the building around, you can't attack or defend. You're attacking the building, though. So, yes, he can. He blocks the next attack that they launch. And everyone realized, like, oh, he can actually directly manipulate the hideout and have it not just shift rooms around, but also move parts of the building and stuff. Like, yeah. So we get an explanation from the guy. We see how he first met Yami. Apparently, Yami had heard about this mansion that had rumors of, oh, there's a ghost haunting it. And now he's like, this place is pretty cool. Can I use this as my hideout for my guild? And he's like, well, I mean, if you wait a little bit, I'll die, and you can just have it anyway, because I have a disease, and the only way I can survive it is if I can leech some mana off of really powerful mages. But, that's way more trouble than I'm worth, so, just come back a little bit later. And now he's like, no, actually, I think that I'll just bring people here, and then you can leech a little bit of mana off of them, and I'll let them grow wild, and you'll leech the excess mana, and then you'll be able to live off of that. So, okay, it works out. There is admittedly a panel that I do like. It's a collage of, the various Black Bulls, just their feet walking around in the hideout, which I think is a cool visual, because it kind of looks like they're kind of converging on him. This leads to him saying to himself, because he speaks to himself far more quickly than he speaks to other people, you probably don't know, but I know all of you. You probably don't know, but you're keeping me alive. You probably don't me, but you are my precious friends. And he finally introduces himself as Henry. The other Midnight Sun tried to attack again. We see that the one who went inside has discovered the little artifact that they got from Atlantis or whatever it was called. But then a trapdoor opens up under him and dumps him outside the building. And everything shifts around, and he turns the Black Bull's hideout into a giant mecha, which is pretty awesome, I actually have to say. And that's where the chapter ends.
So I'll give fair warning. I have very little to actually say about this chapter. And that's from a deliberate thing. I don't think I should have much to say on this chapter because fully and completely, I can't grasp the weight of this. I don't pay enough attention to Black Clover. My complaint easily could be like, oh, this guy's meant to be a big deal, but he hasn't shown up. But people are saying he has shown up in the background of several panels throughout the series run. He's apparently been in the background there. I haven't noticed it. This is the sort of thing that pays off if you really have an interest in Black Clover and you've been following it for a while. You've probably been like, what's the mystery behind this guy? And seeing that get big payoff is probably really satisfying. But I'll be honest, I don't pay that much attention to Black Clover. So this guy has very little context to me. I don't really know who he is. He kind of shows up. The story's kind of out of nowhere. So, and I'm still trying to get used to Gordon, honestly. He's still the newest character of the Black Bulls to me. Even newer in my mind than Zora, who I think is actually the newest member of the guild. I don't dislike this or anything like that. I'm just noting I really don't have much of an opinion because this is something that, like, if next chapter of One Piece was all about Adam Wood, Nick could probably be like, what's the importance of this wood? I'll be like, Nick, don't you remember when Frankie built the Thousand Sunny, he got Adam Wood, which only comes from the New World. It's a very expensive wood. It's said to be the strongest wood in the world.
If you say so, Chris.
Annalise is probably going crazy about this chapter. It's just one that, as somebody who doesn't pay and admittedly doesn't pay enough attention, I really just can't say anything on it.
I don't know. I feel as though the quirkiness of the Black Bull's hideout really should have been played up more if you were going to have that be revealed to be the doings of this secret character and have this reveal be a big thing. If the hideout had felt like it really had its own character, if they had spent more time in the hideout and you got to see more of this stuff happening, and I'm not like just like as a regular thing, as a stuff that had been in a break between series, maybe have like, a couple of mini arcs where they have to actually, go and explore this weird building and stuff. Maybe have a little bit dedicated to this supposed rumor of this ghost going on, so that this is something that is kind of perpetually hanging around in the background. but in a way that it's much more difficult rather to overlook that. And then doing this, I don't know, it's kind of weird because it sort of demystifies things. It's like, okay, that one trait that their hideout had, well, another wizard was doing it. All right. But I think that honestly, the biggest problem I have with this chapter is just that it happened right after the last one. You have a chapter about, okay, these two minor characters in the Black Bulls. This is what the Black Bulls mean to them. And then you have this one, which is what the Black Bulls mean to him. It really takes away from the impact of both, having them come one after the other. And honestly, you might as well just not have had that part of the last chapter happen at all.
Well, I do want to go, because I do want to give credit to the series when credit's due. This chapter, I think, is very important to follow those, because this is a continuation to that story, which was Gordon and Gray want to be friends with more of the guild, but they can't because of their own innate whatever reasons they're shy. But this was a revelation to be like, hey, without realizing it, you both have a very good friend within the guild itself, and Henry, who's always admired you from far away and is, always happy for your appearance there. It is meant to connect with that, and I do get that. It's just one of those things where, again, we get so little of Gray and nothing of Gordon that it's tough to, like, you want to innately give this moment to them because they have so few of those, especially Gordon, this is literally the first thing he's done in the guild. Like, every other scene he's had, I believe, has just been a scene of him being, like, teamed up with someone else, going out on an adventure and getting no real context for who he is. So, it's a little bit there, but I will say at least it does connect into the story they were trying to tell over this divergent story arc here.
And hey, I do really like Henry's thing, honestly. The idea of a character who is isolated within this building, he's not well enough to really go outside, but his magic is built around manipulating that hideout and, moving the building around. I think that's really cool. And it's a different type of magic that we have seen thus far in the series. I just have some problems with the exact way that this happens in the course of everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's finish up with One Piece, chapter 891. They believe in me. Chris, why is Leo standing on that dog's back?
What's
he doing?
He is looking for Pero, obviously. He's trying to find him, and he's trying to talk to that dog to find out more information.
I will get him dog peanuts. So Chris, another Charlotte simply gets introduced.
Oh, Nick, this is a good one though. This is my favorite maybe that we've gotten. Oh yeah, Nick, this is a very important fact. Do we just want to skip ahead to it?
Skip ahead to what? Her getting introduced or what?
Yeah.
Nothing really happens in the previous page. It's just like, oh, the rich people are observing stuff. I don't really care about that. Let's talk about the super young sister.
Yes.
Here.
So the super young sister shows up, who mentions she's Katakuri's, or she's the youngest sister, or not the youngest sister, sorry. She is, of the 41 older brothers she have, 40 of whom selected her for Best Sistress Award, which is a very strange title. It sounds a little sexual. Not entirely comfortable with that. And apparently Katakuri is highly admired by all the little sisters, and not to mention every little last brother. So she has many rivals to try to get his attention and all that. So I guess the only brother who hasn't considered her the favorite sistress is Katakuri. So she is truly the favorite sister. The woman who will be king of the little sisters. 33rd daughter of Charlotte, age 15, Charlotte Flampe, president of the Katakuri fan club, and Suicide Squad captain, Nick. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. DC has definitely been slyly working with Shonen Jump to get this happening, Nick. And I think this was obviously a chapter they've been waiting for as we get the full first-time reveal of what Suicide Squad 2 is going to look like. I got a poster for it. You can check it out now. It's going to be, obviously, we got Flampe in there. She's going to be part of it. It's going to be a prequel. That's why Slipknot's so big. He's basically going to be the main character of it. Sort of like a Deadshot wasn't the captain of the squad the first time. That was Flag, but he was still the big character. That's gonna be Slipknot this time. Booster Gold's gonna be in it too. If I wanted to get someone fun in there. So this is gonna be a real Suicide Squad, Nick. I'm super pumped about this.
This is why you're excited about this, because they happen to have Suicide Squad in in her titles.
That is 100%.
She goes on a 2-page rant about how she will be king of the Little Sisters, and then when you took away from her, look, it says she's the Suicide Squad captain. Isn't that kind of funny?
I fucking love it. I don't know why. I was like, she's part of the Suicide Squad. Yes. I want all the Suicide Squad jokes we can make now, Nick. This is perfect.
A random bit of trivia. Apparently, Oda fucked up in naming which daughter she is, because he intended for this character to be younger than Pudding.
Makes sense.
Okay. So anyway,
I'm leaving.
The entire reason that she is there is to then say, it's like, I hope the Katakuri wins.
I am leaving this picture up, by the way. I want everyone to admire it.
Oh, gosh. So Luffy is still not doing very good. And Katakuri is still beating him up. We get this pretty cool sequence where basically things are clear on Katakuri's side, but occasionally Luffy will have this very small bit of hope, and then Katakuri tries to squash it. There's actually a really weird moment where he launches him with a kick into the wall and then kind of traps him in a ball of mochi against the wall. So you see Luffy struggling inside of it for a second and then stop. And then he just bursts out the other side of the wall instead. That's kind of a cool bit. And then we get this sequence where a lot of things happen very quickly. And then Katakuri explains what he did. With, you tried to stand, I swept you off your feet. You tried a left punch, so I hit your left shoulder. You tried a right punch, so I hit your right shoulder. The result is that you are a useless fool who feels nothing but frustration. This is what happens when I can read your actions ahead of time. So he's back in full control, centered himself, he's all zen. But Luffy has a moment of reflection, remembers back to his training with Raleigh, and he counters a punch that Katakuri launches with his mochi, with a giant fist cast out of the air. And Katakuri realizes that very infrequently Luffy is actually capable of seeing the future too. So it's this is an interesting thing that this fight has become, because it's this character who's introduced as basically just being stronger Luffy, and it's pushing Luffy to his limits and forcing him to evolve and get stronger.
It's forcing him to go Ultra Instinct, you could say.
I guess you could say that.
It's what's gonna happen. He's gonna get the music. He's gonna power up. Everyone's gonna be like, I guess Jiro's a cool character. I don't know. He didn't say anything. It's gonna be very cool.
I wouldn't personally say that he is, but I guess you could.
And then maybe Zoro will show up, and he'll get really angry, and he'll limit break past his Super Saiyan Blue. And I think everyone should start calling it Super Saiyan Bishonen, but no one else will. But he definitely looks Super Bishonen when he does it, so that's my fan name for it. And Gohan better not get punked out this week. Those are all my complex thoughts on Super.
So that was our Dragon Ball Super recap portion of Luffy Manga Recap.
We should add that in. I feel like it's a good spot.
I don't watch it, Chris. You'll have to at least let me freaking watch it if you want to do it. You could just talk about it on your own like you just did.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on Beige's ship, they finished the cake. It's that is a very large cake, all right. There is a graveyard layer for some reason too. So Pudding and all the other chefs just collapse because of all the effort that they've been exerting into it. Everyone kind of celebrates briefly, and Pudding's, evil, sadistic side comes out again. Pointing out, I was like, hey, one of your friends are already dead. There's no way that there's no guarantee that mom's going to love the cake. And I like how she kind of ends this rant that she launches at Sanji with this evil cackle and stuff with, dear. I don't know. Then we have this moment where Sanji and Luffy kind of sync up while talking about two different things. You know, Sanji says they think I'll make the my friends think that I'll make the greatest cake ever and use it to stop Big Mom. And then Luffy is saying to Katakuri, they think I'll beat you and appear in the mirror. They believe in me. They both say they believe in me together. Which is it's something that I hadn't really thought of before. It's like, oh yeah, these two guys are fighting the two most important members of Big Mom's group in very different ways while they're off on their own, separated from the rest of the Straw Hats. It's weird, but yes, Luffy's fist fight with Katakuri and Sanji delivering a cake are the two biggest fights going on in this manga.
Well, it's also worth noting that Sanji too it's not just as simple as baking a cake for him too. It's all about like transporting the cake and decorating and things like that. Like there's been a struggle to like, we have to remember Pound gave his life to get that cake over there. So this is a very intense thing. Quote unquote gave his life.
He's dead.
Never coming back.
I'm not going to do that for him. I was doing that for years.
Who's more likely, if you were to give it percentages, who's more likely to come back, Pound or Pedro?
Probably Pedro.
I would say Pound. We've seen the father figure show back up in those sorts of situations before. I don't know, it's tough.
Pedro had a kind of fatherly relationship with Carrot.
Sure. I don't know, I felt like being dismissive there.
All right, so, and that's basically where the chapter ends. Things seem to be coming to a head because we see that Big Mom actually smells the cake at the end. Unfortunately, One Piece is not going to have a chapter next week, which sucks. I don't think that anything else important happens. Stupid fucking...
Oh, we do get a glimpse at the end there where we see Chopper's gone monster form, Monster Point, I think. Brooke has this line about witness the tremendous volume of an emperor's soul. It looks like they're all going to try to go all out to try to stop this attack, or at least give everything.
Yeah, she's made Prometheus go super huge fireball. Like, his fireball is bigger than the actual Thousand Sun he is. So. So yeah, everything is coming to a head, which of course means that yes, One Piece has to take a week off before we get a big chapter.
Yeah, no, I'm digging it.
So that is going to do it then. So let's talk about what we liked this week, our favorite chapters and our MVPs.
So I guess I can get rid of the Suicide Squad 2 trailer image there. My favorite chapter this week, I'm going to give to Dr. Stone. I love that chapter. I like what we got there. It's some very inspiring kind of moment there with his dad connecting with him, so I really dug it.
I'm going to go with Dr. Stone as well. I really like the little story of the relationship between Senku and his father. And it was a very short little tale, but it struck something with me. Just a very simple and effective story. My MVP is going to be Pero the dog. Something about it. I don't know. He's only there for like 5 panels or something like that. But something about the idea that the dog was overstressed from Miharu's perfectionism and ran away, but left a note which ended in ARF. I don't know. That just was just such a perfect little thing for me. It really got me.
Nick, I'm supposed to be like the over-emotional wuss bag of this show. You can't encroach on my territory.
I did it because it was funny.
Fair enough. My character week, I'm going to give it to... It was
clearly the funniest joke that we had this week.
I'm going to give it to Byakuya Ishigami. I thought that he was just a really enlightening character to kind of see. I like seeing supportive dads in series, and I'm really excited to see one in Dr. Stone. And I'm preemptively putting this in because I know that motherfucker's going to break my heart when I find out what the Senku Ishigami story is that he sent off to the generations going forward.
I think it's going to be really funny if next week that just like, no, Chris, that was the story.
I'm like, that was weird. It was all about him.
No, it was, he inspired me to do better. That was the story. And then I did a great thing.
Maybe it is. I mean, it seems weird. It seems like a very big story about himself.
All right, that is going to do it then. We're going to wrap up here. So thanks, everybody, for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. We do the show on smashcast.tv/ReloT and twitch.tv/ReloT, generally around 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursdays. However, sometimes things change. We need to change the location we're streaming, or we need to move to a different time to stay updated on that kind of stuff. You should follow us on social media. On Twitter, the official podcast account is @WMR Podcast, and your hosts are @ReloT and @NickFTime, NIKFTIME. You can check out our past episodes on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, as well as on YouTube and iTunes. And if you check us out on those latter two, be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, all that good stuff, so that you can help us become kings of the hobby section and reign over those disgusting woodworkers.
You know what the woodworkers had to say about your mom last night? All of your moms. It's shameful.
We dare not repeat it, but
filthy. Talk about how they smish your moms and everything like that.
With their wooden thighs. If you want to send us any feedback, ask us a question for a Q&A episode, or suggest a future manga for us to read, you can send all of that stuff via email to weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com. Also, we want to give some special thanks to our supporters on Patreon. Your support allows us to do all sorts of bonus content for you guys to enjoy.
Absolutely. Special thanks, by the way, to Waylon Revels. Your support is greatly appreciated. Helps us out. Give you a fist bump for some support. And by the way, we've gotten several messages over the past couple days of people who, because finances are tight for them, have sent us a message saying, hey, I can't, support for a little while. Just wanted to let you know. And I'm always eternally grateful when we get a message like that. It's always, it's very nice to hear that people care that much. It's always something, though, that I'll say, feel free to do what you need to. You don't need to send us a message saying, like, hey, I can't support for this month or whatever. Times are tough. We 100% get that. The support that you're able to give is always appreciated. And more than anything, I hope that while times are tough, that they're brief and that our show is able to help you out through those times. I basically say this because I don't know how to respond to those messages. I try to leave a response, but I always feel like I can't fully grasp just the level of appreciation I have for those people and everybody who supports us. But I just want to know, it feels like something I need to put a response to that I just cannot find the right way to say it. But know that I'm eternally grateful.
Yeah. It is not an obligation to help us out financially. It is something that we do heavily appreciate. But honestly, we just really heavily appreciate the fact that you guys keep on showing up and listening to us and that we can help you out.
Immensely.
And also, Steve Mann and Infamous Planet, thanks, I guess. We don't have anything heartfelt for you guys, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Infamous. Fuck him. I don't know. Another form.
And on that very sincere note, we're going to call it here.
And Sundar Gang Orca says, goodbye. Though it's not like I'll miss you or anything.
You pieces of fish poop.
You were this fish poop scum.